Design shapes the way you live. I'm Nico, an interior design expert focused on the connection between home and well-being. Using science, design, and professional expertise, I'll help you shape a space that elevates your mindset and enhances your well-being. Let's create space for better living, starting now. Design choices make the cue obvious and the action effortless. And nowhere does that matter more than the laundry room. This is one of the smallest rooms in the house, yet somehow it carries the weight of half your life. It's a pass-through, a catch-all, a storage room, a folding station, a drying room, and sometimes even a sports locker and a seasonal closet. And because it's often overlooked, it slowly becomes one of the biggest sources of frustration in the home. Today, we're talking about laundry room design, not from a Pinterest perfect angle, but from a designer's system-based, brain-aware perspective. Because this room exists to organize you, and if it's not doing that, it quietly adds stress every single week. This is Your Home by Design. I'm Nico from Pero, where we help you create space for better living. The laundry room, well, it's often the most overworked room in the house, right? It's a really hard-working space, and it often has the least amount of space and the least amount of intention. If your laundry room feels chaotic, it's not because you're bad at organization, I promise. It's because the room is probably trying to do too many jobs all at once. This space is really meant to help you organize your life. But when it becomes visually cluttered and functionally confused, the brain experiences constant low-level friction. And often this room can be a pass-through room. So if it's beside your garage or your entryway, you can pass through it going from one place to the other. And because of that, if your arms are full of things and you need to just put things down somewhere, you'll often put them down in this room. These rooms are often in the back of the house. So they can actually become sort of like additional storage. So if you have things that you're trying to tuck away, maybe you're looking at your living room, you're thinking, oh, there's so much stuff going on here. There's random things happening. Or somebody left this out or that out. Or perhaps it's your entryway and you come in and there's an abundance of extra shoes or coats that haven't been hung up. And you want to do a quick cleanup, very often what happens is you grab a bunch of stuff and you need somewhere to shove it. So it ends up going into this room because you think, I'll put it there for now, and then I will get it to its rightful home. And very often that doesn't happen. So it stays there and then things collect. And then over time, you kind of forget where that rightful home is. And that's really how these spaces become the storage areas, the catch-alls for things. And then it's a room that you do use often. Several times a day, you come in and out of this room, or you're doing laundry. And then if you walk into this space and there's visual clutter, immediately you'll experience a cognitive load. So before you think about shelves and cabinetry and baskets or counters, you have to zoom way out. It's easy to start designing at the micro level, like I need a shelf for this or a cupboard for that. And if only I had additional baskets for something else. But when a small room is asked to store everything, what you actually need isn't better storage at all. It's a miracle. This is where inventory matters. I'm a big believer in one home for everything. And it's not always super easy to do, but it is super effective when it's done. Light bulbs don't live in 3 places. Tools don't live half in the laundry room and half in the garage or on a random counter. If something has to live in the laundry room, it needs a proper home there. And if there isn't room, it needs to live somewhere else. And I like to look at the laundry room as a bit of insight into what's happening in the rest of the house. Because if there are things in this room that shouldn't live there, or should live somewhere else, but they don't have a home somewhere else, then often fixing systems elsewhere instead of overloading this room is what needs to happen. So you kind of have to look to your systems in other areas where that crossover is happening. So for instance, if you have tools that are in your laundry room on the counters, then you should say, well, where do the tools live? And often the reason for those tools being there is because there isn't adequate organization or storage for those somewhere else. So for example, your garage, if that's where half of the tools live, then perhaps you need to actually start looking at the system in your garage first and addressing that. Or just simply saying that this room is not for tools, they go there. And when you get to the point where you can really organize and critique that area and that storage to make that more functional, then you just leave them over there as is. But that is an indication. So if you've got a lot of things where, oh, I've got some light bulbs in this room and some somewhere else, then you need to look to that somewhere else to make sure that it's properly designed to be efficient for you. So if you've got extra coats and seasonal things, shoes, boots, sports gear, all of that happening and ending up in your laundry room, then chances are your closet that has all of the other shoes and coats is probably jammed full. And so to look at that closet and say, okay, first of all, what can I purge? Is there anything I can get rid of? What can I pull and put in storage bins and store somewhere else because they're out of that season and we no longer need them? Or maybe it's just a case of saying, wow, this closet has one hanging bar and that's it. There's no shelves for shoes. There's no 2-level hanging bar to optimize on the space. So if you start sort of playing around with that and trying to get that more efficient so that you can then make sure that the items that are ending up in your laundry room can go back to where they are supposed to live, that's really going to help. Because before we talk about design, we have to talk systems. If you feel like you're always in the middle of laundry, let's say the washer just started, the dryer just finished, baskets are everywhere, that's a system problem. The brain hates unfinished cycles, and laundry is one of the most repetitive, unfinished loops in the home. Trust me, I know. For me, what changed everything was assigning laundry specific days. Wednesday was my day for multiple loads. Saturday was bedding and towels. And I didn't think about laundry on any other day. Now, this system that I've actually gotten away from recently was amazing because on the days I didn't do laundry, I really didn't think about it. And if I did, if it kind of popped into my head like, oh, when I get home, I should throw a load of laundry in or whatever, I would be like, no, today's not the day for that. And what that did was allow me to say, okay, Wednesday's my day. Therefore, I'm going to carve out the time that I need to get that done from start to finish, or I'm going to ask other people to help in that so that it gets done. And that decision alone removed so much background stress. Because design supports systems, but the systems come first. So you have to analyze what's working, what's not. Can you set days and times and really block out some time to get it done so that you're not living in that in between? It is something that I really did get away from this several months ago. And, since I have gotten away from it, I can honestly say that I can tell the difference in how I finish up laundry, how the kids put away their clothes. Because I have a system where as I'm folding the laundry, I get the baskets out, and one basket's for one kid, one basket's for another. And then they come to the laundry room, take their basket, take it up to their room and put it away. And if I've done this from start to finish, blocked out that time, then we see it through, and it helps keep everything flowing and everything functional. And when it's not right now, where I haven't been doing that, I can honestly say that the clothes start to pile, the laundry room gets cluttered and messy, more baskets, more clean clothes folded and left in places versus put away where they need to go. Good laundry room design is quiet when it addresses your needs. When it's functional, it feels easy. It supports you without you really knowing it. It's just you are able to keep things organized. You enjoy being in the space. Things don't clutter. So if you're working with, say, a laundry closet, you have to be even more disciplined. The only thing that happens there is laundry. That doesn't mean it can't be beautiful. This is where small rooms can really shine. You can spend more on details like a special sink and an interesting tile or even wallpaper and paint, because the square footage is limited. So you could find room in your budget to really up the quality of materials. Things like closed cabinetry go a really long way in really calming the space. And especially if it is a laundry closet where you might walk by this little room often. And so if the door is open, having that closed cabinet feel customized that really does calm down the visual noise of the room is going to elevate it. And also, if your cabinets stop short of the ceiling, you're really leaving valuable vertical storage. And this is the case for a laundry closet as well as a laundry room. Vertical storage space is so crucial. If your cabinetry stops short of that and you're not utilizing that upper space, I can guess that things probably get piled there. It's a bit of a storage area, and it's not closed off. It's not closed cabinetry. So you're seeing these piles of random things, and they're probably things that you don't need very often. You're okay just piling there. You might even forget what it is that's up there. So this is an opportunity to close in some storage, have it run to the ceiling, and organize it in a way that's really practical. And you can look at places, if you're looking for some budget-friendly solutions, look at getting IKEA boxes and then customizing the fronts. There's companies out there where you can actually buy door fronts for IKEA cabinets. And it's incredible how it elevates it and it immediately makes it feel more high end. So we talked about organization and how to functionally address things and find the proper homes for things. And now I just want to talk about laundry room design the way a designer actually approaches it. Not from the standpoint of baskets and labels, but from layout and scale and materials and long-term use. So the first question is always layout. It's not finishes, it's not storage accessories, it's layout. Most laundry rooms are inherited spaces. They were placed where plumbing was convenient, not always where daily life happens. And as I mentioned earlier, they can often be rooms that are at the back of a home, tucked away. So you have to ask, does this layout actually support how the room needs to work? A great place to start is with the door. If the door swing is eating up valuable wall space, that could be a problem. This is one of the rare moments where a pocket door can make sense. So if it frees up an entire wall for cabinetry or counters, or even just being able to hang hooks along the length of a wall, this might be a good thing to consider. I'm not a huge fan of pocket doors because I find over time they don't always function as well. But there's always a time and a place for things. And it's always something you have to weigh. Does it make more sense? Like, what are you gaining from getting a pocket door? And if you're gaining a lot, then I would say go for it. The next thing is cabinetry. Laundry rooms benefit from long, interrupted runs. Counters that don't just stop and start. Cabinetry that feels continuous. So continuous cabinetry is, again, if your cabinet stops short of the ceiling, you're missing both storage and visual calm. When cabinets run to the ceiling, it draws your eyes up and it really elevates a room. So there's a twofold benefits there. You get the storage and you get your eye moving up in the space and adding more visual weight to the room. Tall uppers immediately make a room feel finished, even before you touch finishes. So if budget is a concern, this is where designers do get creative. And as I mentioned, doing something like the IKEA boxes with custom door fronts, painted lowers paired with wood grain uppers. So let's say you've got some lower cabinetry and you're trying to stay within budget, and you could replace the countertop and you want to add some uppers. So if your lowers are something that you can repurpose, look at painting the lowers and then pairing it with wood grain uppers. So you're not trying to match wood. That is very hard to do. So what ends up happening if you try to match wood is most likely never going to get a complete match. So it looks then like it's kind of a match, which ends up just looking like a mistake. So you don't want to do that. So you want more of a contrast there with painted mixed with woods. And then if you're painting the lowers, look at just replacing the door fronts to a panel that is more similar or complements the uppers. Another thing is appliance configuration. It really matters more than people realize. So if you need to stack machines, doing so can completely change what's possible in a room, because as soon as you stack your washer and dryer, you gain additional counter space, square footage, storage, and breathing room. So if you've got some old washer and dryers that you could consider replacing, look at if it makes sense for you to get a stacking washer and dryer. And front loading machines are really useful. They can be elevated on risers. And with that, you can do custom cabinetry around it and then add drawers underneath. But that really comes down to how you need to use the space. And as soon as you add a riser underneath, that's not going to be a useful counter above. So if that's your only run of counter, you want to consider whether that makes sense for you. But front loading is a great way to get a counter run on top. If the room is large enough, an island or a central work surface can really transform the space, but only if the circulation still feels easy. If it doesn't, don't try to force something because you think it would look amazing if it doesn't work functionally, because that's going to just create that friction again in a space where you're trying to simplify and get that function working for you. Laundry rooms should feel efficient, not tight, resolved, and not crammed, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, so now I want to talk about the difference between a DIY refresh and a full laundry room overhaul, because this is where people often get stuck. An overhaul doesn't mean luxury. It means addressing the room as a whole. So taking everything into consideration. So layout changes if necessary, door placement, cabinetry, a strategy around what's going to happen with the cabinetry, replacing existing or moving them all together, lighting, plumbing adjustments, electrical planning. A DIY refresh, on the other hand, works within the existing footprint. Okay, but here's the mistake that I see all the time. People limit their thinking too early because of budget. So instead, I want you to do one exercise. Ask yourself, if budget weren't a factor, but the structure of the house stayed the same, what would this room actually need? Would you extend cabinetry, change the door type, add taller uppers, improve your lighting, create a longer counter run? That exercise reveals the real issues, even if you scale it back later. And this is where DIY design becomes thoughtful instead of piecemeal. Maybe you keep the lower cabinets but replace the uppers with taller ones. Maybe you paint the existing boxes and invest in new door fronts. Maybe tile becomes the design moment because tile is often more affordable in small rooms and the impact is high. Lighting and hardware matter here more than people expect as well. An oversized light, and I love like a vintage feel, wall sconces, and better task lighting. These are the details that really can move a laundry room out of that like utilitarian vibe and into designed. And finally, don't do this alone. Laundry rooms affect everyone. And when people are involved in shaping how a room looks and works, they treat it differently. So ownership changes behavior and good design supports that. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this episode, it's this. The laundry room is not a leftover space. It's a system, and systems shape behavior. When this room isn't designed with clarity, it creates friction, visual noise, unfinished cycles, and that constant sense of just being behind. But when layout is considered, when cabinetry is intentional, when materials are chosen for real use, the room starts to work with you. Good laundry room design isn't about perfection or aesthetics alone, although that's important. It's about reducing mental load. From a neuroaesthetic perspective, your brain is always scanning for order, predictability, and completion. So a well-designed laundry room supports that. It makes the cue obvious and the action easy and the endpoint clear. That's why this room, even though it's small, can have such an impact on how your home feels week to week. So instead of asking, how do I organize this better? Start asking, how should this room actually work? That shift changes everything. If you enjoyed this episode, you'll find more design guidance and resources over at yourparo.com. That's yourparo.com. All created to help you design your home for better living. You can also find me over on Instagram at yourparo, yourparo, or my personal is bynico.space. So BYNICO.space, where I share design thinking, systems, and the psychology behind how our homes shape us. This week, I invite you to walk into your laundry room and simply notice where friction shows up. That's always the starting point. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, the best way to support the show is to follow along and share it with someone who'd love it too. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can become one of our Better Living backers. It's a small monthly contribution that helps keep the show going. And as a thank you, I'll send you a personal note along with a 15% discount for the Create Space course when it launches. You can find the support the show link right in the show notes. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for creating space with me.